What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to Storied Rivals Sports Media, live on Facebook, X, and YouTube for Week 15 of Stadium Drive. Will Ford here with you with Storied Rivals, and it's the state semifinal here in Division I. We're here at Arlin Field in Mansfield at Mansfield Senior High School, and it's the first time that the Olentangy Orange Pioneers win a regional final or are in the Final Four, and they're taking on a power in Division I and have been for over the last decade or so in St. Edward and the Eagles, who have won 5 state championships under their head coach, Tom Lombardo, and have won 5 regional championships in a row. They've been in this game the last 5 years. They fell short to Olentangy Liberty last year, who won their first ever state championship under head coach John Sansbury. Came up short in the playoffs to Olentangy Orange this year, after graduating a loaded senior class. But for Olentangy Orange, they have been far and away the best team, not only in their conference and in the OCC, but maybe in the state of Ohio in Division I all season long. They've been playing lights out under head coach Wes Schrader. This is his 4th time reaching a state semifinal. At his previous stints, he reached the state semifinal with Granville and twice as an assistant with Olentangy Liberty. And this is a coach in Schrader who knows how to win. He's been in this spot before with other programs, and this is the 3rd program that he has helped lead to the Final Four, and taking on a power, like I said, in St. Edward, who they've been there, they've done that, and they're looking to advance to the state championship game yet again. But for Olentangy Orange, their offense, it's been second to none in the entire state, and it's led by their quarterback, Levi Davis. And he had an outstanding game in the regional final against Pickerington Central last week. And he did throw an interception early, a pick 6. That was the only points that Pickerington Central got on the board. Outside of that, he was outstanding. You see there at the bottom, 125 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 94 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Really the definition of dual threat. Can do anything he wants on the football field and makes good decisions 99% of the time. That was in Week 14 against Pick Central, but his numbers through this point, through 14 weeks, and that's including having a bye in Week 11, 67% completion percentage, 2,000 yards passing, 15 passing touchdowns, 939 yards on the ground, and another 16 scores. Very, very balanced with his arm and his legs, and the most lethal player, maybe the most lethal quarterback left in the field is Levi Davis, and I'm sure he's going to be a finalist for Ohio's Mr. Football this season, being the co-offensive player of the year in the OCC, leading his team to an undefeated record, first ever state semifinal, and potentially leading them to the championship game next Friday in Canton, and has led Orange to this spot for the first time in their program history. It's really been remarkable what this kid's been able to do over the course of his career, and I think, just in my personal opinion, the most talented quarterback that I've laid my eyes on my last couple years here at Storied Rivals. But he's got a tough task today. But he's got a great supporting cast. And it starts with the other co-offensive player of the year in the OCC-Central, and that's Lucas Fickle, who has just been dominant all season and just adds another element to this offense that can really take pressure off of Levi and allow Levi to really have a clean field to look at the majority of the time. Fickle, 1,800 yards rushing this year, 7 yards a carry, 141 yards a game, 28 rushing scores, and he had 175 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Pick Central in their huge win. He is just so dominant, so explosive, gets tons of carries, and like I said, takes tons of pressure off of this offense and makes things really easy for Levi to see the field, and Levi is obviously very talented. And then their other talented player, co-defensive player of the year in the OCC-Central, is Trayton Schrader, the nephew of Coach Wes Schrader, corner, wide receiver, but does most of his damage from the corner position. 6 interceptions this year, 443 yards receiving, 2 receiving touchdowns. He's an unbelievable player, and like I said, co-defensive player of the year in the OCC-Central, without a doubt. One of the best corners in the area, and he'll need to have another big game tonight, the biggest game of his career and everyone's careers for Olentangy Orange. And those guys are, without a doubt, they're going to need to have big games. But let's talk to head coach Wes Schrader of the Olentangy Orange Pioneers about being in this spot for the first time. Obviously, he's led other programs to this spot But the first time here with Orange, talks about matching up with a power in St. Edward, who have been here and done this so many times, but not being intimidated by that, going to prepare as if this is a team that has never won a game. Yeah, you want to prepare the same way every time. He's going to do that with these St. Edwards Eagles. So here's head coach Wes Schrader, Stadium Drive, week number 15 on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Head coach Wes Schrader, Olentangy Orange Pioneers winning their first ever regional championship and in the Final Four in Division I. They'll take on St. Edward this week in week 15, the state semifinal. And I appreciate you joining us, Coach, and congrats on advancing to the first ever Final Four in Olentangy Orange history with a 39-7 win over Pick Central. That game was close in the first half. It was 14-7, and then that second half was really dominant. What message did you relay to your guys at halftime, and what went into the execution that you put forth in the second half to really pull away? And
I mean, they threatened though a couple times, and I don't think there's any message. We felt good about where we were. We got that stop early, and fortunately they snapped it over their head on the they went Wildcat and settled for a longer field goal and pulled it. But and then we drove and scored, and then we got another stop, but that's when we had that mistake. But the mistake happened for a variety of reasons, but we had that the snap infraction on first down, and and then we got that stop right before half. We almost returned that for a touchdown as well. But we went to halftime with a 7-point lead with the ball coming out. We felt pretty good about where we were and what we had going in. So our kids were ready to play, and that was the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Levi had another great game, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns throwing, 2 touchdowns running. But Lucas Fickle, almost 200 yards rushing, and he's been doing that all season. And the offense it's been great the entirety of the season, but maybe what's been more impressive is I don't think the defense has had an off week at all. If the offense isn't putting up 35-plus points and maybe you score in the 20s, the defense is always doing its thing, and it's holding teams to – you held Pick Central scoreless. Talk to me about how well the defense has played through 14 weeks.
Yeah, we gave up the 21 to Gahanna week 4, but we were up 35-14. They scored one late on that, but they've been playing pretty consistent. We do give up some yards here and there, but we typically don't get gashed consistently for 4 quarters. And the way our offense is playing, they complement each other really well. We got to the ball on Friday. We got guys down, and they drove that first drive, but we just played next play, and they did a really good job. I've been impressed with those guys all year, but we're constantly trying to get better, and I think they've been doing that these last few weeks for sure.
Now, this is the 4th regional title that you've been a part of. You 2 as an assistant at Liberty. I think it was in 16 and 17, and then you had one with Granville in 2021. But talk to me about this regional run. Is it more difficult than those runs in years past with those other teams that you were a part of? Or, you guys are undefeated, obviously, but talk to me about the road to get to a regional title. How difficult was it for you and your team to get here?
Yeah, so it's always special. It was 16 at Liberty when we went. We were undefeated that year as well, and that was the first time, for me. And it's the Thanksgiving Day practice. Anybody that coaches high school football know it's pretty special. So we did that, and and then we were fortunate enough to go back the following year in 17. And then Liberty won again in 18, but I was at Allen East at that time.
Right.
I got experience in 16, 17, so it's kind of cool. And once you do it, you're kind of like, oh, this is possible. We can do it. And then Granville in year 2 at Granville, we were undefeated as well. And, had that run. We, went through some CC. We had Drew Watterson and DeSales and London and Western Brown. And, that was awesome because Granville's never did it before. So they're all unique in their own way. And this one's really special for a lot of reasons. Just, Orange hasn't had a ton of playoff success. Before we got here, they had 2 playoff wins. I think one in 11 and one in 19. And to win a regional championship in year 2 is pretty cool. And our kids, just because the community is excited, the school's excited. There's just a lot of buzz around here, and people constantly stopping in and out of my room. Awesome job. It's so fun to watch. And having, 2 of my nephews on the team is really cool. It makes it a unique experience as well. And, I don't know. There's just a lot about this. They're all special in their own way. And, but, you don't take it for granted. But you don't want to get lost in the moment either, because, we have a pretty big task on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. And that task is St. Edward, who has won, I believe, 5 straight regional titles. They've been in this spot a million times before. And this was the team that Olentangy Liberty drew last year in the state semifinal as well. So, kind of the same scenario and whatnot. I don't want to say intimidation is the wrong word, but is there a different mental factor in terms of approaching this game, knowing that you're going up against a team that has been here so many times before? They're seasoned, they're championship level football team each and every year, and this is the first time that you've been in that spot with this program at Orange.
We have a ton of respect for Coach Lombardo and their program and what they've accomplished. It's really special. But no, we treat every team. We would treat these guys whether we were playing them or a team that was 0-10 that's never won a game. We're
Right.
just prepare as hard as we can and give it our best. You know, Liberty's familiar. Liberty played them last year, but they also played them in 14 and 19, and so it's not like they're familiar with Olentangy teams. So yeah, look, we feel like we're pretty good too. So we're going to prepare like crazy, and I think we have no intimidation factor whatsoever. We have a lot of confidence, but we also have a lot of respect for what they have done and what they continue to do.
Absolutely. And you can ask Coach Sansbury because the game last year was so cold in Mansfield,
Yeah.
and it's in Mansfield again this year. And I think that game, it was like under 20 degrees, but with the wind chill, it felt like 7. And I was just standing on the sidelines, and it was brutal. I couldn't imagine taking a hit in those conditions. But it's going to be pretty cold this
Yeah.
Friday, and it seems like the Friday after Thanksgiving, I don't know what it is, like the temperature just suddenly drops out of nowhere. But how do you prepare your kids for something like that? Because we really haven't experienced weather like that. You might get some rain here or there or whatever during the season, but as far as being cold, this will be the coldest that it's been all season long. How do you prepare your kids for that?
I mean, we pride ourselves on being tough, mentally and physically, emotionally, everything. And we practiced in the Liberty week this year. The Tuesday practice was brutal, and
That's right. There was a stretch where it was real cold.
it was really cold, and our kids handled it well. We just keep saying it is what you make of it. Like everybody's playing the same thing, we're coaching the same thing, so it's the only thing you can do is just be aware of it and just compete. We did that at practice, and we'll do it again on Friday. We know it's going to be cold, but that's fine. We're okay with that. It's not like there's an unfair advantage because we're both dealing with the same conditions. So I think we just be who we are and practice really hard and get to the game. And once the ball's kicked and you run a couple plays, you don't think about the weather too much.
It only hurts as long as the pain lasts, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's yeah. So, and hopefully we're delivering some of that. So,
sure. Yeah, there you go. Now, Levi, this is his senior season, and
mm,
he has been unbelievable throughout his entire career. But how vocal has he been in the locker room during this playoff run and really, all season? Because he's a leader on his basketball team. He was a leader on this football team. Talk to me about, we know what he can do on the football field, but talk to me about what he is saying to his teammates to not just drag them along, but lift them up. And you guys are, running through this playoff run together as you get ready for St. Edward and hopefully advance to a state championship.
yeah, he's constantly picking guys up, and even when he makes a mistake, and guys, we know that he's going to respond. Like he's in the locker room and he's talking to everybody, and pregame he'll go through and he'll dap everybody up, and he's grown a ton over these last 2 years, and I'm so proud of him, and I'm so proud of our team. But we have a group of seniors just like him that they all take turns leading, and when you have a team full of leaders and it's player led and player driven, you get to do special things like this. They're the ones that are, if somebody doesn't show up to something or does something, they're calling them out. And Levi's there. He's the extension of our coaching staff, and the kids respect him and respond to him because he competes hard. He doesn't miss anything. He does things the right way. So, and then when he says something, it matters because he's not doing something and saying something else. Whatever he says, he's doing himself, and our kids respect that and they respond to it. So, and he's really good at football, so I think that helps with the respect factor. So
That does help a little bit for sure, and could be a finalist for Ohio's Mr. Football. So I know his name's been mentioned as among others as well, and he's been terrific. And I'm sure you, being his coach, think that he should be the winner of that award.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. You can argue for a lot of guys,
Oh yeah,
but our guy's pretty special. What we've done here. I mean, not a lot of guys have. We're the only undefeated team left in Division I, so it's the big. We play a pretty tough schedule, and he's got, I don't know, like probably close to counting for 40 some touchdowns, and when he doesn't, people have to account for him. So it opens up other things in our pass game and in our run game, and for Lucas and Lucas is a phenomenal player, and it's we feel that he deserves it, and I would be shocked if he's not a finalist. But I don't make those decisions. So
it'd be great though if you compare that finalist or winning the award with a state championship as well.
I think he and I both agree we'd probably rather have the.
Oh yeah, you would rather the latter, of course. But if you can get both, why not get both?
Yeah, that would be the ultimate goal. Yeah, obviously,
sure,
that's what we want. But.
That would be the cherry on top, I suppose. But the goal is a state championship. And Coach, I appreciate you hopping on and talking ball for 10, 12 minutes, man. And congrats on winning a regional final and getting to the state Final Four. Good luck against St. Edward, and hopefully you advance to the state championship game. And happy Thanksgiving as well, my friend.
Thanks, you too, man. Take care. Good talking to you, Will.
Yeah, talking about the weather here in Mansfield at Arlin Field, Mansfield Senior High School. Once again, thanks for joining us here on Stadium Drive, week number 15. Will Ford here with Storied Rivals Sports Media. It is 29 degrees here at Arlin Field, but with the wind chill, it feels like 17. And I remember last year being at this game with Olentangy Liberty and St. Edward, and I believe it was under 20 or maybe around 20 around this time, but the wind chill had it below 10 degrees, and it was just unbelievably cold. I'm not really sure if I can feel much of a difference. It's not super windy right now, but that could change as the night progresses, and certainly the coldest football game that we've had all season long. It's funny how 2 days ago, it was in the 50s, and now day after Thanksgiving, we've got 20 degrees and wind chill, and I can see my breath. That's kind of it's unreal, but that is playoff football once you get to this stage. It seems like the day after Thanksgiving, the weather takes a turn and gets cold, and hopefully everyone's been safe out there Black Friday shopping. Hopefully everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. But now let's shift gears from the Olentangy Orange side, them reaching the Final Four for the first time in their program history, led by Coach Schrader, Levi Davis, Lucas Fickle. Let's shift now to the team that's been here and done that 1,000 times over, it seems like, with St. Edward and these Eagles, led by their head coach, Tom Lombardo, who's won 5 state championships in his 11 years here with the program, and he's won 5 straight regional titles. So this is a program that has been at the pinnacle of Division I football for the better part of the last 10 to 15 years. And really, they're the measuring stick. They are the standard when it comes to winning championships and playing championship-level football. And that's what Olentangy Orange, that's the challenge that they have tonight. Is obviously they're a great football team. They're super talented offensively and defensively. But when you're taking on a team that has been here before just as recently as last year, and this is the first time in this spot, how do you stack up? How do you raise your level given the conditions, the pressure, the weather, and everything that is building up to this point? But these Eagles are just such a tremendous football team, and they just seemingly reload year after year after year. And really it starts with their star running back, who just became the all-time leading rusher in Eagles history last week in the regional final against Mentor, 178 yards and 3 touchdowns for Brandon White in their 27-7 win. This season, 234 carries for 1,800 yards, almost 8 yards a carry and 23 touchdowns, but for his career, just shy of 4,000 yards. And he missed the majority of his junior season last year, so he probably would have become the all-time leading rusher last season at some point, given that they made a deep playoff run But it was pretty impressive that the Eagles made it this far without him being, their lead back, super, super talented running back. And he will, in all likelihood, reach 4,000 career yards tonight, just being 13 yards shy of that. So that'll be another milestone for him. But really, what these Eagles are looking for is another state championship berth and a chance to win the 6th under Coach Tom Lombardo. And they're also going to need a big game from their supporting cast because Brandon White does a lot, taking the pressure off of their new starting quarterback, first-year starter, Johnny Evanchik. They've got a veteran receiver who makes a lot of big plays for them, especially in the return game as well. But you look at their numbers, Evanchik, 54% completion percentage, 623 passing yards, and he's got 412 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, and I've messed up the passing touchdowns there. I'll get you that number here in a moment, but obviously it's not 56.6 passing touchdowns. That doesn't make any sense, but apologies for that. But first-year starter this year after Thomas Cassani led them to this point last season. Zach Hackelman, though, is their veteran receiver with 859 receiving yards and 16 touchdowns. That is absolutely huge for these Eagles, and they're going to need some big plays in the passing game to support what Brandon White does in the running game. And given these conditions, I'm sure that running the football is going to be an emphasis for both teams early. It has been all season long. They're going to continue to rely on the run game, but who is going to make the big play in the passing game? Which one will make those plays on big third downs in the fourth quarter when you need to extend drives to either go ahead late or prevent a team from getting the football back with a chance to go ahead themselves. It's going to be really interesting to see this chess match given how cold the temperatures are. We've also had some flurries as well with some snow. We'll see if that has an impact, wind as well. And let's talk to head coach Tom Lombardo now about the sustained success of his program over the course of his tenure here with the Eagles and how difficult it is and what it takes to consistently be in this spot, matching up against this uber-talented Olentangy Orange team that has been, without a doubt, they're offensively the best team in Division I all season long. And it's going to be really interesting to see. He also talks about these conditions as well with this colder weather and potential wind. So let's talk to head coach Tom Lombardo from the St. Edward Eagles, multiple-time state champion. 5 times in a row they've won the regional championship. And here is Coach Lombardo on Stadium Drive, week number 15, live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. With Tom Lombardo, St. Edward football going into the state semifinal in Division I, taking on Olentangy Orange. And, Coach, I appreciate you taking time to join Storied Rivals this morning. And I want to start with really this unbelievable run that you've been on, because you've won 5 state championships, but 5 regional titles in a row. So you've been in this spot the last 5 years. And I'm just curious what goes into that high of a level of success for such a sustained period of time, and really just what goes into how good you've been really over the course of your tenure.
Yeah, it's funny. Great question. It's really something I told the kids after. Don't take this for granted, because when you do something 5 times in a row, I guess people just expect you to do it, and it's not easy to do. The kids have put a lot into it. Each year is unique to its own year. You can't say, well, you won it 5 years ago, so that's why every team's different, and every team has to develop and make their own path with it. So I'm really, really proud of this particular group. We battled through a tough regular season schedule. We played really well at sometimes. We saw some things we needed to work on, and hopefully we're playing good ball at this stage in the game. No one's probably perfectly healthy. No one's probably 100%
right.
So you got to battle through that and hope we're battle tested in order to to make a run at this great Orange team.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know last year entering the playoffs, you were 5-5 in the regular season and played, as you said, a really tough schedule, went on a run in the playoffs and then fell short to Olentangy Liberty at this stage. But what made this season in particular challenging and unique to get back to this point?
Well, again, it was another tough schedule. I think we got, we had a new starting quarterback. That's always, something. But we had some guys that returned from injury that missed in those playoffs. Brandon White, who's our
Right.
leading rusher at St. Ed's, and Zach Ackelman at wide receiver, who were minus the playoff run. So 5-5 is deceiving. 8-2 is deceiving sometimes. This year we were a little more dominant for the 8-2, but 5-5, we lost about 3 or 4 really close games last year.
Right.
And if a couple things go the other way and things are going well, you win them, and you're 7-3, 8-2. It doesn't look as but you are what your record says you are, as the quote goes, and that we didn't win those close games. And I think we learned from that. So I think that's where last year helped us with this year, and now I think we're there. We're there again. We have to be the best of 4 teams. That's what I do. 4-team brackets all the time, and now we have to be the best of Olentangy Orange, St. X, and Middletown.
You mentioned Brandon White, your all-time leading rusher, just became that in the game last week. He had 30 carries, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns in that 27-7 win over Mentor. Just talk to me about what he's meant to your program's success over his career.
Well, you start with just the type of kid he is. He's a humble kid. He works really hard. He doesn't, put a lot on himself. He's a team player first, and he's just a really good player. Like, he can cut in the hole. He can explode. He can make a big run. He can make the tough yardage runs. You're glad you have him in the fourth quarter when you need him. And I'm just so happy for him that he's, recognized now. And mind you, he only played 2.5 games his junior year. I mean, if he played the full 15 we played last year, he'd have a record that might be almost unattainable. Like, he's just that good of a player.
Yeah. Now, with Olentangy Orange this week, you mentioned how good of a football team they are. This is their first time being in the Final Four, and their offense has been nothing short of sensational. Maybe the best offense in Division I this year, and led by their outstanding quarterback, Levi Davis, who I assume is probably going to be a finalist for Ohio Mr. Football. He had 4 total touchdowns last week, but then they also have an outstanding running back, too, in Lucas Fickle, who had 175 yards on the ground. That offense is so dynamic, and they can hurt you in a lot of different ways. And their defense, they get to the quarterback, they create a lot of turnovers. Is there a weakness that you think you can exploit when you look at this Olentangy Orange team? Because very few teams at this point, they don't have many weaknesses.
Well, no, they don't. And they're undefeated for a reason, and for all the reasons you said. So I don't know if exploit's the right word. You try and find throughout some film study where you think you could attack them, and hope that your matchup is good in those regards. You really don't know until you get out there and see, because you haven't matched up against them before. We've never played in our history, but what you can see on the film is the dynamic duo of those two guys. Fickle and Levi just are outstanding football players. Big play capabilities across the board. And they have some good receivers too. And the O-line, I don't know, I'm sure it gets a lot of credit in the Clemson, but the O-line is senior laden and very good. So, no, I don't know if there's something to exploit. I think we got to limit the big plays. It's, try to do that somehow, and, try and move the ball against them ourselves, because we're pretty good too that way, so. And that's probably what a state semifinal game should be. 2 good teams, and then you see who plays better Friday night.
Now, I'm sure you remember last year against Liberty in Mansfield. It was absolutely frigid. It was so cold. I was there last year. It was like, I think the feels like was like 7 degrees, but it was like 20 something or whatever. Really cold, and it's going to be cold again this Friday. Maybe not quite as cold as last year, but I guess, was there anything that you took from last year that you can do to help prepare the kids for the elements this Friday?
I don't know. We go back and forth with what we could do and all that, how we could prepare. You really just have to be mentally tough and go out there. And we you prepare them all year, like saying, look at guys, you played 10 games, 12 games sometimes. And this year in particular, it was like perfect weather every Friday night.
Yeah.
Barely rained. It was practice, all that. And all of a sudden, to win it all, it could be snow, it could be driving rain, it could be, like you said, 7 degrees. And a lot of things then don't apply as much, in that way. So you got to be able to adapt. We've been saying that. Hopefully we can, and it's not as much a factor. Wind is a key factor more than cold almost in some ways. So we'll see how the wind is.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun to watch this Friday. I appreciate you taking 5-10 minutes to hop on and talk football, Coach. Congrats on the sustained success that you've enjoyed over the course of your tenure, 5 straight regional titles, and best of luck against Orange.
Thank you very much.
There's the great Tom Lombardo, one of the great coaches in Division I. 5 state championships, 5 straight regional titles for the Eagles. Allow me to make a correction, though, because I made it sound as if Johnny Evanchik has not had a great season, and he absolutely has. My numbers, I must have fallen asleep at the wheel, had too much turkey yesterday when I was making these graphics. I don't even know. But he has thrown for 1,500 yards this year, 67% completion percentage, not 57, 67% completion, very, very good, very efficient, 24 touchdown passes to 7 interceptions, but the rushing numbers were correct, 2 rushing touchdowns on the season to go with 412 yards. So another quarterback that can do it with his legs as well, maybe not to the level of a Levi Davis running the football-wise, but certainly a good thrower of the football. Again, 1,500 yards passing, 24 touchdowns to 7 picks. Very efficient, 67% completion percentage. And Evanchik has had an outstanding season. And his top target is Zach Hackelman with the 859 receiving yards, and 16 of the 24 touchdown passes thrown by Evanchik have gone to Hackelman this season. Without a doubt, the number 1 target, the go-to guy, and he will need to have a big game, especially in the later stages of this game, to keep pace with this Olentangy Orange offense. And Brandon White, all-time leading rusher, he's going to get a ton of carries and really set the tone for this Eagles offense. And we'll see if they can get back to the state championship after falling short last year to Olentangy Liberty. It's the first time that these two teams have met, and of course, it was the first time that the Eagles played Liberty last year. And it had been, well, maybe not the first time, but it had been in numerous years before their previous matchup. But this is the first time that they've matched up with Olentangy Orange. So back-to-back years in the state semifinal, taking on one of the Olentangy schools. And the Olentangy schools are trying to, I guess, maybe complete the cycle and win, state championships all around, Berlin and Olentangy included. But for Orange, it's their first time in this spot, and a chance to move on to the state Final Four, to the state championship. And like I said, it's 29 degrees here at Arlin Field, and it feels like 17. It's only going to get colder throughout the night. The wind, I'm sure, will pick up, and we might get some snow flurries here and there. But make sure you're following us on all the socials, Facebook, X, Instagram, but mostly on X tonight for score updates throughout the night. I'll try to post some highlights to go with those as well as scores happen, as teams trade touchdowns. So make sure you follow along tonight. We really appreciate you following Storied Rivals all season long. We're kind of in transition. It's the end of football season. Hopefully another week left as we continue to follow Olentangy Orange on their playoff run. But now we're getting ready to, or I guess I've already started covering basketball as well. We are filming the state champs in Division IV, the Maysville Panthers, tonight as well. So we're getting ready for basketball season. We're going to be doing some live basketball games as well. We'll announce that stuff kind of in the coming week or two. But we really appreciate you making us part of your Football Friday nights each and every week of this football season. And hopefully we're in Canton at the Pro Football Hall of Fame next Friday for the state championship here in Division I. Appreciate you following us. We've got St. Edward taking on Olentangy Orange. That's on tap for you here in about half an hour here at Arlin Field at Mansfield Senior High School in Mansfield. But Will Ford, Storied Rivals Sports Media, signing off for now. Take care, everyone. Stay warm. Happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully you all had a safe Black Friday shopping out there. I know I did my shopping earlier today. It was a lot of fun. But take care, everyone. Happy football, and hopefully we'll see you next week in Canton at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.